welcome to the season 5 finale of Frame and Reference. We got a great one today with Steve Yedlin, ASC, the DP of the Knives Out series, most recently Knives Out 3, Wake Up Dead Man. And I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much for spending your time with me over the past year. It's been so much fun. I love how many amazing guests we've been able to have, like Steve. And it only keeps going when people like you, listen and share it with your friends and all that kind of fun stuff. So thanks again for listening. We will be back in a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, to start season 6. We've already got 5 episodes in the chamber. So the train isn't stopping now. But just wanted to share that. Thanks with y'all. And I will see you, or you will listen to me, or however this works in 2026. Enjoy. You know what? Actually, I was just hanging out with Alex Forsyth a couple nights ago. And I coming on, and he was like, "Oh, tell him I say hi."
Oh, that's great. Well, hello.
I imagine you guys all. I guess he did mention the Hollywood Beer Association. I don't know if you go to those, but
I have not I've not frequented it, but I know about it. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he's a fun one to sit there and pick the brain on, because at least your stuff I'm able to go back and revisit. When he's telling it to me, I'm like, bro, here's a sheet of paper. I need study materials.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
It can, but it's fun to learn, especially like you spend so much time focused on, at least at my level, like trying to get better and better. And then at a certain point, you're like, well, I'm getting hired. I'm filming enough. People like my work. And then you're like, oh, there's a whole new level of stuff you can learn. I'm like, oh, that's nice. So I hate feeling like I know, quote unquote, everything,
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. If you feel like you know everything, something's wrong, because there's always a lot to learn.
Yeah, they sent me to. It's nice. Sometimes I'll get sent a screener, but they actually sent me to the Netflix office to watch it in there.
Oh, great! Oh, good. I'm glad you got to see it on a proper projector.
I imagine theirs is probably calibrated to the whatever the correct spec is. For it's no dim bulbs there.
Yeah.
But I found it. I really enjoyed it. There were a few sections that I was looking at that I guess this is just the only place to start that makes sense. But it's just, well, I guess first of all, like, obviously, when did the first one come out? 2019, 2020?
I think 2019. We shot it in 2018, so it must have come out in 2019, I think.
Right. I think. And you've had, obviously, a lot of time to learn more stuff yourself or whatever. Was there, not that they look terrifically different, but are there any like methodologies or processes that you kind of added to your toolkit to help with this one from the first one?
I mean, yeah. On the one hand, absolutely yes, but on the other hand, I wouldn't attribute the look to those. It's more of a tools to get the look that we're after, which we would have been after the different look even without the different tools. But yes, absolutely. And the biggest thing that's changed since then is, in the realm of light control, because, I've been really interested in, there's sort of been a promise of LEDs that hasn't really been delivered. And I'm trying to, work on tools that sort of deliver the promise that was always supposed to be there. Cause, it's a little bit like what happened when we first started moving from film to digital image acquisition, where people got so excited that they can do anything. Like there's all these knobs and different things you can do. And you're like, yeah, but the fact that you can do anything doesn't mean that you know how to do even the one thing that you're trying to do, let alone anything else. Like there used to be this in-place system, there were only a few films, camera stocks, or only a few print stocks. You could process normal, or you could push or pull, and that's it. And it was this kind of system that worked and made an, artful color rendering. not photometrically or colorimetrically correct, but an artful one. And it did it repeatedly and reliably, and then that locked system didn't just get a little more flexible. It basically went in the trash can, and we now have a completely unlocked system. Right. So people felt like that. I think there was a general sense of that's powerful, but the problem is when you're trying to make a movie and not reinvent the wheel of the technical stuff while you're doing it every single shot or every day or whatever, it's good to have a system that works. So to me, the idea, you want the best of both worlds. You don't want a baby with the bathwater situation where everything that was good no longer exists. Like the idea that you can have with that, the idea, with that one, the idea that you could have a fixed system that's awesome, but you can also change it however you want, rather than, in order to not have a fixed system, it also means you don't even have a starting place. So we've kind of, depending on what kind of color pipeline, because there's so many different ways people do it. So depending on how you do it, that part has been shored up now, and it's possible if you want to, not everybody does it, but it's possible if you want to do it like the past, where there's this completely fixed, predictable, simple, reliable workflow, but you can also vary it however you want. And then I think when we came in with LED lighting, it was sort of the same thing, where people got so excited that you could make the light any color that they forgot that they don't even know how to make it one color. How do you make this? How do you make this light the same one color that incandescent lights always were? And so there's this kind of all the variables coming untethered. Whereas what you actually want is, you want all of the reliability that you had in the past, plus the ability to change it. You don't want, you don't want, again, the same thing. You don't want this baby with the bathwater situation. So, when we did Knives Out, I was already working on that, and we were kind of in the very early stages of it, where, we were using, at that point I had developed a little color calculator where, if we're using, let's say we've got an incandescent light, a professional LED movie light, and then a off-the-shelf, just cheap LED ribbon that doesn't have all of the colorimetric stuff that the movie light has. Well, we can match the movie light to the incandescent light by, taking a spectrometer, read the incandescent light, and then put those chromaticity coordinates into the movie light. That's already a little bit more advanced than most people do, because sometimes people assume that because we offhandedly call incandescent lights 3200, they think that means you can put it in color temperature mode and set it to 3200 and have it look like an incandescent light, which most of the lights don't, because there's a color science definition, there's a hard definition of what chromaticity, because we know how to measure hard chromaticities, and the chromaticity that's associated with 3200 Kelvin is actually not exactly the same as incandescent lights. That's an offhanded, that's an approximate offhanded description. And also it's actually more describing what the film is sensitive to more than what the light is, whether the light is making the same color that the film is sensitive to. So it's already a little bit more advanced to meter the light and then set the thing to that chromaticity, rather than using sort of colloquial versions of color temperature, because there are actual color science versions of color temperature, but there's also the sort of colloquial non-specific ones, like just calling an incandescent light 3200 or calling daylight 5600, which is really crazy because daylight's a lot of different a lot of different colors. Yeah, it's the film that's 5600, not the daylight itself that's 5600. So it's already a little bit more advanced to do it that way with the smart movie light. But then how do you do it with the dumb light that doesn't have anything? The dumb light doesn't let you type chromaticity coordinates into it. All you can do, it's got 5 emitters on it: red, green, blue, cool white, and warm white, and you can just turn them all up and down. So I had developed a calculator where if you take spectrometry readings on the 5 separate illuminants, it'll make whatever exact color you want, and it'll also do it with the brightest, smoothest spectral distribution possible, where the whites are as high as they can be. So it's using the broader, brighter illuminance to make it as much as it can. If you start making a saturated color, it's got to turn those down. So on Knives Out, we were already kind of going down that road. But now, like all of that stuff, because we have all our custom software that we do this stuff with, and it's much more advanced now, to where rather than typing it into a calculator and then having to manually set it, like the calculator says, I need to set the 5 illuminance on the LED ribbon to be this, 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 and this, and you're like typing them in. Now the calculator still does it, but then it also actually implements it in the background. So all you're typing in software is the chromaticity coordinate, and just in the background, it's just sending the right blend to the light, and we're making dumb lights into smart lights. And now it doesn't matter. We can match we can have not only different brands of movie lights mixed together, but we can also have dumb lights that don't have all of the the high end smart stuff that the movie lights have.
And so are you driving, like, what is the interface between, for instance, just some off the shelf LED ribbon? Is it like a Raspberry Pi kind of situation, or like how are you getting that information to and from the light strip, for instance?
Right. So we have our sort of custom software version that I've been using, that's basically, instead of a dimmer board, it's not a dimmer board. It's like, instead of dimmer board software, we're basically controlling all of the lights, the whole stage, everything, from this system. We're actually working on, partner and I are working on, this is eventually this is going to be put into a beautiful shiny box, and it's going to be a product that people can use publicly. But right now, wonderful, that's still in progress. So this is like a Frankenstein, sort of prototypey version of it that I use,
which producers love to hear, by the way.
Yeah,
I built this in my shed. They're like,
yeah. Well, the reality is we've been using it for a bunch of movies now, and everybody that's seen it work sees that it's saving us time. It's making things better. Everything's better about it. Everything from either you're saving time or you're using the time much better, where you're always finessing. Instead of troubleshooting to even get to the place you need to get to, you get there right away, and then using the time to make it even better. So even though it's the prototype version, we've been using it for a while, and so it's just instead of the dimmer board console software. So like the lighting programmer might be, they might pre-rig with their system, and then they'll unplug their system, and I'll plug my system in, and then just in terms of driving those LED lights at the end, it's really just that they have controllers that take DMX the same way that the smart lights do. But the only thing that you can do with the DMX controller is turn the 5 illuminance up and down. You can't, it doesn't have any chromaticity information in it. Like, it's not going to take a signal. You're just literally driving the lights. It's not going to interpret a signal where you're saying, hey, give me something like this, and then it figures out how to do it. You have to figure out how to do it. But now it's automated, so it's still on the control side as opposed to the receiving side, is where the calculation from chromaticity to physical blend of emitter happens. So that's now happening on the control side, but you don't have to do it manually as a human. The thing's just doing it under the hood.
And so when you say off the shelf, you mean like light ribbon, not Walmart thing on the spool.
The thing is, it actually could be, right? Because we're not necessarily using that, but it absolutely could be. We'd have to get a spectrometry data set on that specific ribbon. If you use the data set from another ribbon, it's going to be approximate at best. But once you have it, you can do it with it, because the ribbon itself it just has wires on it, right? So you could plug the wires into one of a DMX driver, and yeah. So yeah, you could do it with, you could conceivably do it with anything. Like, even if something's not meant to, you could strip off whatever it's connected to and just put the wires onto the DMX driver.
Yeah.
If it's the right voltage, don't people at home, don't plug the 24 volt one into the 12 volt. Don't put the 12 volt one on the 24 volt power supply, but
Yeah. Yeah, don't try this at home. You actually turned me years ago when I was reading stuff you'd put online. You turned me on to just I had to interpret it, obviously, because at the time I was a little dumber. But I invested in getting the spectrometer, and boy, just being able, because I do a lot more documentary stuff now, but at the time it was a lot of corporate as well. Same idea, looking at just interviews. And being able to just plop someone next to a window and I have like the Kino flow and just XY it in there, and boom, it all just, I'm like, oh, it's the greatest thing in the world.
And I
wrote so many articles. I write for this website called Pro Video Coalition. And the second I got it, I went and metered every bulb in my house. I was like, and I wrote an article. I was like, if you're going to be using these for film use, because we can't get tungsten here in California.
Yeah.
Here's the good ones and the bad ones. They're all bad, but GE Sunfilled was actually spectrally pretty good. But now I can't because exactly what you're saying. The big thing that pissed me off was you type 5600 in the back of that's not what comes out the front ever.
Yeah.
So you got to do it and then meter it and go, all right, 100 more, and then you move it 100 and it went up 300, and you're like, all right, somewhere in the middle,
Well, worse than that, though. I mean, even if it did, that's still not the color you actually want. The fact that even if something is 5600 and zero, in hard chromaticity, there's no such thing as tint, but there's delta UV, right, which is how far off of the Planckian locus you are. So if something is actually in color science terms, not in dumb cinema dude terms, if it's 5600 and 0, that's not really going to be the color of anything. It might be vaguely close to, if it's kind of a sunny day and you're combining the sun plus the sky, not one or the other, and you don't have a lot of
buildings.
Yeah, but
in there.
But I'm saying that one thing it might be close to is if you just have sun and sky, so it's not overcast making it super cool. It's not just the sky. It's not just the sun. If you have sun and sky and you don't have green bounce from trees and stuff, that might kind of sort of be a little close to 5600. It's still going to be greener probably, but nothing that you would ever be matching unless it's a weird coincidence is going to be these 3200 or 5600 numbers. And it's almost never going to be right on the Planckian locus. Most things that are semi either natural or sort of analog tend to be green. They're on the green side of the Planckian locus, and something like an old LED might be before they started making proper color ones might be magenta on the magenta side or whatever. But almost nothing's ever going to be those. So it's like a series of problems with the Kelvin thing, like that we use it colloquially. It does have a mathematical meaning, but that's not what we mean. Even when you do use the mathematical meaning correctly, that's not usually the colors you're after. It can't properly describe anything that's not on that line. We have there's the whole color gamut, and you can only describe things on one line in the whole not gamut, but the whole observer, like the standard observer. Not only can you not go above or below the line, green, magenta, you also can't go past it. You can't go bluer than where the line ends on the left. So there's like all of those problems with it, and then on top of that, it's a spectacularly nonlinear scale compared to both perception and to like physical blending of illuminance, to where with the low numbers, 100 Kelvin is a lot. Like you can totally see it. It's not just a blip, right? But if you're at 10,000 Kelvin, 100 is literally nothing. Like if you're 10,000, you could go to 20,000 and you're not going to see a change because there's a point where it's piling into a point and not moving anymore. And, but like I know multiple real examples of like a gaffer will have their lighting programmer make presets at 100 Kelvin increments.
Right.
And like, this is you're making way too many. You don't need anywhere near that many, and yet it's also too coarse. Like you have the opposite problems because you've made probably 100 times or whatever more than you need near the high numbers, and you don't even have enough on the low numbers to be even sort of perceptually even steps. You know?
Yeah. Well, that lighting guy probably got so many dumb notes where they're like a little more, split the difference, and their brain just went, you know what, 100 increments every time.
Yeah.
They don't do whatever you want, bro. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole like. At what point do you think we were able to actually, when you talk about throwing away the pipeline and just creating a chaotic, do anything you want, how recently were we able to actually take authorship of that and create, as you tend to say, like your own thing, not an ascribed thing, but you're like, I like it this way, I like it this way. Because when the tools were shittier before, you were kind of at the behest of, especially when we went from like tape to digital, there was like 4 buttons on those things, it was like, no choices. But was that kind of a recent development that you've been like having to fight your way through, or are we at a place now where the average person doesn't have to, sit and nuke and figure it out?
That's an interesting question. So wait, are you talking about the LED stuff or the image pipeline?
Both
stuff,
but specifically just the imaging pipeline, from kind of start to finish.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, nobody ever had to sit and nuke like I did. I mean, that's a nerdy way to build your own stuff because you don't have to.
Your taxes and nuke, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That is actually a line that I say that you could do because it is Bitbucket. When I teach a seminar at AFI and I actually say one of the reasons we're using Nuke is because it's agnostic. It's not doing a bunch of automated stuff that you don't know what it is. And, I literally say you could do your taxes and it would not be a good way to do it, but you actually could. Yeah, I think it's kind of complicated because I think it's, the one thing to remember is you never have to do it by yourself. Right? Like you could do a locked system or somebody's helping you, right? Like it's not one or the other where like let's just say a camera is really good quality in terms of latitude, noise, resolution, all the stuff you want, but you just don't like the manufacturer's LUT. It looks too video. Maybe it looks more filmy than some other LUTs, but it's too video-y looking and you want a more cinematic, artful, less colorimetrically accurate and more artful look.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. If you want something like that doesn't mean you have to invent it yourself. Just because, I do because I'm a nerd on that stuff. But that doesn't mean. But if you want a more fixed down system, because like we were talking about, and like you were just saying again, that it used to be fixed and worked, like when it was just film print system. Then it got completely untethered where it's not like, okay, there's a fixed system that works and you're allowed to go off of it. There just is no system. So if you're going to have a fixed system that works, you have to decide what that is for, kind of project based. And I think it's absolutely possible to do it. And it actually has been, if you don't want to make the thing yourself, if you want to partner with the color scientist at your post house, or, there's plugins that do some of this stuff, or,
you can
whatever.
You made one.
And no, I was involved. I didn't. If you're talking about Genesis, I actually didn't make that. Colin Kelly made that, but I licensed some of my stuff to him. But whatever it is, yeah. And they did all the color stuff. That's none of my color transformation stuff. And that it's great. It's good stuff. I'm just don't.
I tested it out. It looks great.
Yeah. And but yeah. So like, there's all kinds of things that you can do. And I think part of it is actually the philosophy more than the technology. Like you have to actually want to do it. Not just say that you do, because there's a lot of these things where people say they want something that's not really what they want, so you have to actually want to do it and be committed to it. And then you really have to vet it, because, one of the things that happens, and the thing is that this was happening sort of when the Alexa was new. So I would have imagined it would be not happening anymore by now, but I know stories where it is still happening. Sure. Where, if you do like the manufacturer's LUT, that's great. There's not, the different tastes, whatever, but there's the problem where people aren't really vetting it exactly right. So they're using it to make all their onset decisions about lighting ratios and stuff. And then it's not really what they want. So then when they get into the color grade, one of the hallmarks of, and this is stereotypical, but it's a very good broad thing, is it looks more video-y, like video-y as opposed to cinematic. It looks more video-y if, okay, something that's black is black, but then as soon as there's any light on it, it rises up really fast, right? So the middle is very flat. Like as soon as there is light on something, it's very visible. Whereas there's a tradition in cinema of there's all of this stuff that you can see. It's totally visible, but it's dark and hanging low in the frame. And that way, like when you light a person, they stand out from the background, and there's texture to if they have a bright side and a dark side of their face, that actually feels textural as opposed to, just feeling kind of flat. And, if when you're shooting, you're not designing the whole pipeline. That's the whole thing I'm saying is you can't be reinventing the wheel. It's like, this is the only time you've got the camera, the actors, the location. You have to be all in on the actual lighting and setting up the camera. You can't be like inventing LUTs on set every day or whatever. And so if you sort of just didn't think about that and didn't notice it, you were thinking about the stuff you should be thinking about on set, but then you were lighting to this LUT that wasn't vetted in advance. You may have now exposed it where, you were sort of trying to get that richness, because if you have good taste and you wanted it to, you wanted it to feel more cinematic and everything was looking bright and flat, so you actually just like, you were putting negative fill on and exposing darker to try to get some texture in there. But then you realize, oh, wait a minute, it was the LUT. Now I've exposed it so dark, and I've put that I don't have all of those tones, because in that traditional cinematic look, you do have all this stuff that's dark but visible. It's not going black. So when you try to bring it back to that, you just never shot the information, because you were trying to get some texture into the thing, but doing all of your evaluation for that through a LUT that's, contrasty at the edges and flat in the middle compared to what you actually want. You've now put these tones so close together where, like, for example, the very darkest thing in the shot is very close in tone in the actual data to like something that you want to be medium or just below, like middle gray. So now now you have a choice. The whole image can kind of look milked, or it can look torn apart because you're trying to take two tones that are very close together and rip them apart, where you're going to see the quantization, the image is actually going to fall apart. You can do one or the other, but you can't do both. You can't get it to be where, black is black. The stuff that you want to see, you can still see it, and other things hang low and have nuance to them. It's like you can rip it apart or you can milk it out, but you can't get darkness and the richness and the contrast and everything all at the same time. But by no means am I saying this is something that's ubiquitously happening, but the fact that, like I said, when this stuff was new and people, you kind of like, okay, well, everybody's learning it. It's too bad that they don't understand it now, but they will later. But we're still seeing some movies that suffer from these problems. And then, in post-production, a lot of your time color grading becomes damage control instead of finesse. What you want is, this starts out great and we're making it better, rather than this is a disaster. How do we get it to something that's okay?
Right. Well, and I actually had Alex like sit me down and explain to me like what a LUT is, like what it is. And I guess to your point, to simplify it, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying it's better to do your tests, establish your look pipeline, whatever it is. Then you save a LUT. That's all that math there. The LUT is the solutions saved. You monitor with that. You light with that and all that, so that when you go back into post, it looks more or less like what you were shooting, because the underlying math is there and not the solutions that the camera is like remapping stuff to?
I mean, yeah, overall, the yes, except the one part of that I would give the caveat to is the math is always, when you're applying it, it's all, you're talking about it being concatenated where you don't see the components anymore, right? Like you're making a huge computation stack that's all of the math. That's how you decided to create the LUT, which is, it's the transformation from, this is uninterpreted camera data that's not even meant to be viewed. It's just information about the scene, and let's prepare it with a photographic look.
Yeah.
And you're taking all, like, you could do something dumb and it's simple, but if you do something very complicated, that's a huge computation stack, and then you flatten it into a LUT. But the thing is, you're always doing that, whether you do it a good way or a bad way.
Right.
It's always flattened. So the sort of fact that it's flattened part is not the crux of what the issue is. Or does that make sense?
Yeah, it was more of a, you hate that in a QA. It was more of a statement than a question, but it was just like having to realize that, like, oh, like if I do the LUT itself, he was like, you can theoretically reverse engineer a LUT, but I don't know anyone who's got the years that would take.
When you say reverse engineer, do you mean invert, or do you mean?
No, I mean like physically look at like the numbers in the lookup table and go, all right, what was the math that made these numbers?
Oh, the math. I see. Yeah, yeah. Reverse engineer the computation stack from the LUT.
Yeah. The reason I bring all this up is because there's I need to get off the internet, but unfortunately I keep going on. And recently, like in the past week, there's been a lot of conversations about, oh, why do films from the 90s and 2000s look so warm and whatever, and now they don't? And every single comment said they shot on film and now digital, and they shot on film. And I was like, I promise that's not the answer. And I got downvoted to hell. And you come out with movies that I think look nicer, and then this gets into the whole thing of like, what version of a movie are you watching? How was the transfer? Did they regrade it? All that crap. But I think your work has done a good job of proving that if you want it to, there are methods for which to take that chaotic pipeline you speak of and make it yours. I mean, yours is obviously a taste-based one. It's not empirically like, this is the correct way to do it.
Yeah, just how I like it.
Yeah, but I also like it.
Yeah. Well,
but
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I think that's, people cherry pick movies that they loved from
the survivor's bias.
Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, but what about all the other movies that you didn't like at that time? They were also shot on film. Like literally every single movie was shot on film, not just the ones you actually like. I mean, there's a thing where always seems like a coincidence, whichever magical, unachievable thing happened to be made at the time that the person has the opinion was like becoming an adult, Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's the Fight Club and the Matrix. Yeah. I'm always like, how come we can't do that again?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's just taste, like people were doing what, there was the taste of the filmmakers who made those movies versus the ones they didn't like from that time, and then their own taste of which ones they like, and they're trying to, you said, you started this conversation with too much time on the internet, and there's so much stuff on the internet that's we want everything to be one weird trick, this kind of like collapsing it down to some one thing, and you're talking about like an entire artistic endeavor, like how is the movie lit? Like there's people making really pointed decisions using a lot of like expertise and artistry every day, all day, to make every single one of the shots in a movie. And the idea that it's this one weird trick of which camera model they used,
shooting,
it's like,
that's a big one.
Yeah.
Cinematographers don't want you to know contrast.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, what were you going to say? I cut you off.
Oh, no. Like I said, this is a ranty podcast. But it is a good transition because there was a couple scenes in the film that I don't think would stand out like in a sense of like people going, wow, that was beautiful. But for me, I was like, And the first one was that scene in the kitchen with Kerry Washington. I think was that terrifically difficult, or was that like, oh yeah, we just put some? Because for me, I was like, this is lit perfectly. I don't know why it stuck out to me, but I was like, I love this. And that one and the scene of Benoit sitting at the picnic bench outdoors, both of those
Oh, nice.
a look to them that I was like, I would like to know how these were lit, and like what were the challenges there.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no, I'm glad you like those. Hell, I don't know.
Those were pretty.
Yeah. Well, that was the most fun thing in the movie is all of the, and the biggest thing to figure out was how to do all the changes with the sun going behind the clouds and bursting back out. And
so good.
And all of that. But yeah, those two scenes that you mentioned, I mean, it wasn't any kind of specific weird day to do hard stuff. I mean, it's every day you're, solving a puzzle, and I mean, we weren't doing anything weird in there, like in the kitchen. I think part of what was going on is just that, and we had some weird things to deal with, like there was, I think, some skylights we had to cover. I'm not sure, but we were really just trying to, in terms of the overall principles of how are we lighting this, I mean, we're just trying to make it feel like what it really was, which is there's the really big window, that's, the door window, that the one that Sai goes out of, and it's supposed to feel like there's a big push coming from there. So obviously the sort of the basis of all the decisions was, it should feel like what the room is, except it should feel like that, except look awesome. Right. And, and I think, the room has a lot of white walls, which, very.
I think that's what stunned me was it still looked good with all that. What would, like, for me, I don't know if I could pull off anything close to that, just with all the white, which I'm faced with constantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, I mean, I always remember, near the beginning of my career, like that, just a big white box is the absolute enemy of cinematography. Like it's just the most boring thing. But also because of that, I'm just, like I'm always aware, like since that, became an obvious challenge to me, I'm sort of, especially at that time, I mean, I'm still aware of it, but especially at that time when it was such a frustrating challenge, I would be hyper aware when I saw a movie where a room's all white and it looks fantastic. Like what is it that I like about that? And the weird thing is that again, it's not a one weird trick thing. Like I don't even know what it's not like. And then what I discovered was it's this. It's more like a sum total of all of these things. But I mean, one awesome white room scene is in Empire Strikes Back when Darth Vader shows up at Cloud City. And they're in that big white box. The room is kind of a big white box, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So that's that's one for inspiration.
Windows in the next one too.
I think so. Yeah. Trying to remember.
Dining room. Yeah.
Yeah, but were there any original?
I don't know.
I think that might have been in the. I think that might have been when in the special edition they might have added some of the windows. I think it kind of was at least to an extent. Let's put it this way: it's very much a big white box. Like there might be facet stuff. I don't remember, but it's a good one to watch. The next time you have to shoot people in a white box, watch that one for some inspiration.
Well, and I guess with the because unfortunately I saw it like last week, so the memory starts. And they don't take kindly to you sitting there with your phone and photos. But I think the thing with Benoit on the picnic bench, it speaks to a larger thing I noticed, that I very much like the way you're lighting faces, which I know is everyone's like, you're supposed to light spaces, but we all have key lights. And it was something that I couldn't, first of all, the delicacy of the light is nice. Like it's present, but it's not overbearing. The density on skin is like perfect in terms of the color grade. And then, but I could never tell if it was bounced or diffused. And I assume it was a combination, but it was a fun little project to try to tackle when I was sitting there in the question zone.
Well, one of the interesting things about that scene is, firstly, if I'm remembering correctly, I think we shot that on day one of the shoot. And, so obviously similar to the kitchen thing, of course we're lighting it and we want to make it look theatrical and cinematic, but it's got to be based on what's there. So it doesn't look, because it also has to be evocative of the space and time of day and everything. So they're under that tree, so the tree's kind of like a dark roof. And, so the light's clearly coming from the side. The roof continues way in the one direction. So the light's obviously coming from the side that's open. And we were talking about the LED light control stuff and the fine tuning colors. And one thing that was really exciting about this movie is this is the first movie where I felt like we were properly, for real, able to do that with day exterior stuff. Because of, like in the past, there's been, like just LEDs aren't bright enough. So you have to go back to HMIs or whatever. So the fact that, and I'm not saying you couldn't do it at all, but like, things have been changing. And then just the stuff that we physically had on our job as opposed to what I had on other jobs, even if it existed in the world, was kind of the first time we could do that. So, given that was on day one, that was actually the first time that we're lighting. So that's kind of interesting that you brought that one up. This is kind of the first time that we're doing day exterior stuff so it was like I was metering the sky and putting setting the lights to exactly the sky color so that, you could make this wrap of the light. And this is huge because this is one of the things that's always been, there's tons of movies from before the technology that look fantastic, but you can kind of see it a lot where, if you make a wrap outside, if you do it with HMIs, even if you try to put the right gel on it, it's never going to be exactly the right color, right? Like whether it's supposed to be exactly the same color or even if it's supposed to be cooler because this part is just sky and the other part's a mix of sky and sun and it needs to look a little cooler or whatever it is, whether it's supposed to be exactly the same or whether it's supposed to be different in a specific way. You either can't control it at all or you can only control it in a very clunky way. And, also HMIs, like if they're new, they're magenta, and when they're old, if the bulb is new, it's magenta, and when it's old, it's green, or vice versa. I don't remember which one. And, it's hard to, the gels to control that are in clunky increments. They're not in fine-tuned, increments. Yeah, exactly. So
half. Okay.
Yeah. So, so we were just, and we were shooting that scene. It was getting darker as we were shooting it. So we were chasing it. So as as it got bluer out, then I'd meter it again and adjust the lights again, and we'd adjust the stop and also adjust the white balance because we can. We could also do that in post, but just because we can also adjust the white balance, so it continues to look the same even right now on set, not just later. And so it was just a way to, we were able to have these lights through diffusion and kind of a big wrap that's soft but directional, and can be made the right color so that it doesn't feel like just some artificial movie light interfering with the light,
Yeah, I guess when you say that LEDs can be powerful, but that literally just like, I was like, oh, duh. Like the past 2-3 years, all these companies have been coming out with, okay, now it's the size of a moon, but like, who cares? If you need that much light, generally you have a budget for that,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And even when we were doing that, even when we were doing Wake Up Dead Man, they didn't even have the Vortex 24s yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, we were doing it with, we called them Vortex, which was, it was 4 Vortexes, Vortex 8s in a single yoke. So we had a couple of those, I think, in that scene. I think it was 2 of those Vortexes.
Yeah. And so it's just simplify. It's just that through some diffusion.
Yep.
Balance the exposure, hit record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, that's the thing I think that is missing a lot when we talk about all the, at the first half of this, there's a lot of like technical, but that's all in prep. when you're actually doing it, it can be just that simple, and it takes
yeah.
plan for it.
Well, I think that's this thing that sometimes people get confused when they're saying like, why are you doing all of this stuff? And I'm like, no, I'm doing all of this stuff in prep so that we don't do anything and it just works when we're shooting. Like when we're shooting, we put those things up, put some diffusion on them, meter the sky, put it at the same color, or if we want it to be a little cooler, put it at the same color and then cool it off a tiny bit or whatever. And then also, and also the fact that we are fine tuning the exact, if you do that with an HMI, what are you going to do? Like if you scrims are huge increments, backing it up and pushing it in, that was a grassy hill, like uneven. You're not going to do that. The fact that it's, it's easily going to be the case that it's either going to look too lit or not do anything, and because, even just because scrims are a very coarse and not fine increment. Whereas here you get it set up and you just do the tiniest little increments until it really feels like you've sculpted it, but it neither looks like there's, on the one hand, it doesn't look like there's a huge movie light hitting them, but the other hand, it is doing what it needs to do to make that beautiful light wrap on them. And again, you can chase it as the light's going, because sometimes even if you could chase it with scrims, even if you had scrims that were in super fine increments, you're just not going to wait for it. I mean, the actors are in the middle of doing a scene and you can't just every time be, hey, stop and let me, and whereas here, it's just I've got it on a dial and it goes down a little, and I can do it during the shot, even if it's a long scene and it's getting, and it's getting darker. I can just, okay, it's getting darker. I can nudge the light down and nudge the iris open, slowly so that you can't see it. And,
where am I going with that? So is your, I'm just reminded now of the sort of outdoor confessionals. There's like a couple of them.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the same process? Just one key light over here, everything else?
They were actually really different. It depended on the scene. Some of them were literally nothing at all, just like totally natural. And then some of them was, some of them, yes, is, exactly what you said, where it's just a diffused light on the side. But then there were ones where, like, if we'd already started and it looked a certain way and now the sun's over the top, we would put a, diffusion over. Right. So that there were a lot of different things. And there were some, I think there were probably also some where it wasn't just one light for a wrap, but where we had a little more light surrounding them, just partially because of once you're already in a scene. And again, it's not that it couldn't have looked good without doing that. It was more just, we need to keep making it look like we're in the same scene here.
It did seem, I don't know, where'd you shoot it?
London.
So, okay. Because literally the first thing in my notebook was like, there's a overcast look to a lot of this. London.
Yes. Yeah. We had a lot of, light changing though, where it's funny because obviously in the movie we have all those light cues that we're doing on the stage with the sun coming in and going away, but when we're doing a scene, I mean, obviously you can't have that happen for real, because if it's happening for real, you can't make it happen on the same line for every take and every shot. So obviously if when we've actually got sun coming and going in a scene that's supposed to be continuous, we have to deal with that a little bit. And that's yet another thing we can do by having this finesse control right at my fingertips is, once that diffusion is over top, like if it's not over top and the sun's coming and going, obviously that's a different thing. But once it is over top, I can finesse it. I can either do it manually, or I could even just get two settings. Like when the sun's out, our light gets bright, our light gets brighter and warmer. And when the when the sun goes behind the clouds, the light's got to be cooler and dimmer. And I could either do it as two set cues, or I could do it manually where I'm adjusting it. I can literally do it where as the sun comes out, you start nudging it towards the other cue and stopping down. And then when the sun starts going away, you start nudging it the other way and opening the iris up a little bit. And if you do it slowly, you can't, it's it's certainly less of a change than what would happen if you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the big thing that I came away with. And again, I was enjoying the film tremendously, but I am watching it like to ask cinematography questions. So some of your brain kind of does have to, but I kind of was chuckling to myself because it did feel like even that type of stuff like makes it feel like a magic trick where you're watching it and you're like, well, that was effortless. And then you're over there like,
Yeah.
keyframes on.
Yeah.
It's like very cool. Speaking of magic, was it just production design or whose choice was it to put the Ricky Jay poster in the bar?
I'm sure that was Ryan. I'm sure Ryan asked for that. I mean, I wasn't I wasn't there when that decision was made, but I mean, Ryan loves Ricky Jay, was friends with Ricky Jay. I mean, it's I'm sure it's something he asked for and wasn't accidental. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal film. I got to let you go here soon, unfortunately, but I guess we could. We'll just have to have you back to. But
I'll do it. I'm enjoying this.
That's all I really care for. I'm honestly like the low key, the main thing that keeps this going is like, I know a lot of people are on press tours and it can get real samey. Like what if they just had like an hour in the middle where they just got to like kick back and then take a breath and
I love it.
Kind of the idea. But the one I remember, I don't know about famously, but you guys had designed like for glasses and eye reflections, you'd like gaff taped up some, the right shape.
Oh, for Knives Out.
Yeah. And I caught it in this one with some fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, and I only noticed because I was thinking about it, but I was wondering in what other ways did VFX help you achieve what you guys are trying to do? Like, were you doing any like, painting out of equipment or, because it's not obviously I suppose there's a little action, but when films kind of simpler like this, it's fun to know like where those little hidden scenes are.
Well, the fire reflection in the eyes is not visual effects. We actually did that.
Oh, really?
That's the next evolution. Instead of putting tape on lights, we use monitors. So with the same light control software, I've got videos. So in prep, we shot fire. We actually shot flames at 200 frames a second. So the flame was actually roiling really fast, and then it's at 200. So that's why it has that kind of smooth look to it, because it was one that was really going crazy, but it was shot fast. And then so I can play it back, and I'm only using from the video. I'm only using the luminance, the shape of the fire. Where is it dark versus where is it black, or so I'm only using the contrast from the video, and then the light control system is actually setting the color, because if you have the color rendered video, that doesn't look like a flame because some of it's blown out and it's white, so it's not actually the real flame is orange, but when it's photographed it's white. So we don't use any of the color rendering. So I'm setting it's just like a movie light. I can set the exact chromaticity, the XY chromaticity coordinates of the fire, and I can make it brighter and darker. And then the video is just generating the shape that you see. So we did that with several things. We did that. There's also a thing where there's a scene where in Vera's glasses, you're seeing reflected the church windows. That was a monitor with the church windows being played back. Obviously, we could have taped up a light because that one wasn't moving, but we had the monitor.
Yeah.
Another one that could have been taped up, but why do it? We got a monitor. You can just, you don't need to waste a bunch of tape. Is Grace, in the Grace flashbacks, there's one shot where you actually see a cross in her eye. And that was reflected in her eye. And that was from the monitor. So
yeah. Okay. So this is exciting because I'm a big, catch light nerd. There's a whole artistry to catch lights. Where you can make people look sad, happy, whatever. Were you just using a normal monitor or like one of those Kino mimics?
No, it was a very cheap monitor. The whole idea of it was that because you're not looking at it or anything, so it's just it was literally the cheapest monitor I could find that was bright enough, because to get a very bright monitor, in the world of lighting, a very bright monitor is still not very bright, so it's not worth spending $20,000. So it was literally like $150 monitor or something like that. And we just in prep, we just had we're like, let's buy 2 monitors that are lighting monitors. They're in the lighting department. They're in the lighting gear. And it's the monitor plus the little router and decoder. And so it's just, I'm just running it on the same system that I'm running all the lights. And yeah, but to answer your visual effects question, I mean, sure, there's things here and there all throughout the movie, but not tons of stuff. But one that was really fun, specifically with fire though, is in the and I think we did this in both, because there's 2 firelight scenes. There's the one with Blanc and Judd, and there's the one with Judd and Martha. And I know for sure we did it in one, and I can't remember. I think it might only be the Blanc and Judd one, but there's a wide shot where you're looking right at the fire and everything. And there was practical fire, but it's indoors and it's not ventilated, so we're not allowed to make it big enough that it could like actually light the scene. You know what I mean? Like if that's what's lighting the scene's going to be black. Just literally no exposure on anything. So we put movie lights in the fireplace, and I had my fire effect going on the movie lights. And then we took them away and gave the visual effects people an empty plate. And then also our second unit shot some fire elements, and then they just put the fire, they took the movie lights out, put the fire in for just that wide shot.
Yeah. Well, it's inspiring stuff, because it's technically all very achievable on most levels, and that's always cool when you see something that you're like, I really like that, to hear like, you can do it like that. That's always nice for me.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you now know those were $150 monitors and not a visual effect, not an expensive.
I don't have a use for it, but Lord knows that's going in the back pocket. Like,
yeah.
Well, I'll let you get on to whatever you've got next, but I would absolutely love it if you could come back. I got plenty of stuff we could keep chatting about.
Yeah, love to. Thank you so much for having me. What a blast.
Frame and Reference is an Albot production, produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to frameandrefpod.com and clicking on the Patreon button. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.